gone back through the centuries. And yet it is, in a sense, the most important reading of Scripture. The intent for our minds and hearts as we hear this gospel is that we feel the full weight of all the years, of all the centuries, of all the millennia of anticipation, of waiting, of expectation for the coming of the Lord in the cave in Bethlehem that is now so close at hand for us. We read these names because every person whom we name and all their generation also waited for the coming of the Messiah. The difference only is this: he whom they awaited and died without ever seeing, we are blessed to see with our eyes, to touch with our hands, to taste with our mouths. It is he whom we now prepare to approach. So as we stand and as we walk towards the Lord, offering ourselves to him who offers himself to us in Holy Communion, let us remember the patient waiting of the millions who lived before his coming, whose expectation and hope we are today blessed to fulfill. Let us stand. Are you looking forward to it? Good. That's the right answer. Do you know why we look forward to it? Or rather, let me say it this way. You have a lot of presents under the tree, right? And you know that there's something in them. If you wrapped them, you probably even know what is in them, right? And maybe you snuck around and you shook the presents and you're trying to find out what's in them, but you're still not going to open them till Christmas, right? Right. We're kind of doing the same thing in the church today. We know that Christmas is coming. The icon's right there. We can't exactly put a curtain over it to pretend that Jesus hasn't come already, right? But we're talking about it today as though it hasn't happened yet. Because there were those people for all those hundreds and thousands of years who didn't know that Jesus had been born because it hadn't happened yet. Most human beings who ever lived, at least most of the centuries of human existence, happened before Jesus came. And that's something to think about. We can take the good news for granted. Even if I have to put it so simply as to say, 2,000 years ago, there was no Christmas tree, there were no presents, there was no excitement and joy at this time of year. All that was winter. Brr. Right? So because for such a long time they didn't know, they hoped, they had heard that something was supposed to happen, but it hadn't happened yet. And all the people who lived were waiting. That's partly what we're doing today. And partly, we're reminding ourselves that ultimately that Jesus is always there. It's not as though he goes away at the end of Christmas, right? And then he comes again. That would be kind of silly. Yes? I'm looking at you. You're nodding. Thank you. He's always there. But we get distracted. We get busy. What's the first thing you think about when you get up in the morning? Breakfast cereal? Okay. We get distracted by breakfast cereal, or by toys, or by friends, or by the presents under the tree. We get distracted. But Jesus is always there. Behind the wrapping of everyday life, if you'll excuse the comparison. He's always there, and we forget. So today, we set aside today above all days because it is the forefeast of Christmas. To shake the present a little bit. To look at the wrapping, to look at the label, to remember that everyone has been waiting for this for a very long time. We don't open it yet. We're not singing Christos Genate. We're not opening presents. We're not singing Christmas carols. We're not full of smiles. Because life is hard. Life is sad. And sometimes we have to look past that part too and remember that Christ is still there, behind the scenes, making all things right. And on Thursday and Friday, we will celebrate this. What we have been waiting for will arrive. And it's both the presents that we're looking forward to opening, right? And, much more importantly, the gift of God, who offers himself to us and says, everything is going to be okay. Now don't forget me for the rest of the year. I'll give you a secret. The first thing you think of in the morning isn't supposed to be breakfast cereal, right? No, it's hard. Because we wake up and we're thinking about everything else. And on Christmas morning, the first thing you're thinking is presents, right? But remember the Lord. Remember that Christ is with you, not just on Christmas, but every day. Remember that he supports and sustains you when life is good and when life is hard. When things are scary and when things are happy, God is with you, protecting you and giving you strength to endure what needs to be endured and making everything joyful, right? So the present is always there, not under the tree, but behind the scenes of our daily life. Christ is always there. We just have to remember to unwrap it. But sometimes we wait so that we look forward more to that.